guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave, episode 10. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than I normally do. I'm just going to be talking about what retro is to me and what I really consider retro video games. Because I've been playing video games and collecting video games for a very long time. Even when the retro gaming wasn't really popular, I was finding them in the thrift stores. And, I'm not the only one. Obviously, there's lots of people that were doing it. It didn't really hit that spike until much later on. Probably, through YouTube videos and stuff, and the Angry Video Game Nerd and some of the other ones that were promoting the retro games. But what I want to really talk about is, what do I consider retro? Do I consider things like the Nintendo retro? Or do I only consider the Atari or the Intellivision? So let's take a look at some of them and see what we can come up with. Okay, so let's begin here with the Atari. This is my Atari Junior. This came out much later. I have my other Atari already hooked up to the TV. I just wanted to use this one as an example. But anyways, so this I got later, after I had a Nintendo. Actually, I didn't get this thing until I got a Nintendo. But and the games, the Donkey Kong and all those favorite Space Invaders. These are really what I would say are the core of retro gaming. There's also other systems. I have an Intellivision and Coleco and all that, and I consider those to be all retro. So, and this is pretty much what started the whole revolution, the whole gaming thing. This is what people started with, right? There was other ones out there, Fairchild and the Odyssey and stuff like that, but I think Atari was where it was at as far as retro gaming. And I still love playing this, so, I definitely would consider this retro gaming. So that brings us over to the real question, the Nintendo. Now, when this thing came out, obviously everybody put away their Ataris and their Intellivisions and stuff, and we're like, damn, look at this thing. There were so many great games for it. We had, our everybody's favorite Super Mario Brothers, and this is the one with the Duck Hunt. This is the one that came with my system. And this, honestly, the Super Mario Brothers was the main reason why I wanted this system when it came out. I think it was for a lot of people, right? Zelda as well. My friend had Zelda and I played it, and I was like, that's crazy. And so once I got the Nintendo, I thought, okay, what do I need all these other things for? I started getting rid of my old stuff. I got rid of my old video games, which obviously was a mistake. I had to go and hunt it all down again. But I thought, that's it. I'm just going to play with this. This is what I'm going to play with from now on. And then, obviously this became old, and then they had the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64 or GameCube, all that other stuff started coming out. So, at some point this guy started becoming old. And so, and I still, at that point, I don't think it was retro. So it was still, just on that phase of, okay, out with the old, in with the new. And then I just wanted to show this off. This is the Atari 7800, which tried to rival the Nintendo at the time. The Atari was trying to say, look, we're still relevant. We have the classic games. We have Donkey Kong, but then they also started coming out with some newer games. Impossible Mission was one of them, which is one of those funny stories where the game was created and you can't actually beat it, so it's really impossible. But anyways, this was playing the original 2600 carts and its own 7800 carts. So, you'd think, well, this is going to have a much better library. There's going to be a lot more games. You can play it. But still, people were like, no, it's done. The Atari name was done at this point. Not, figuratively. It was more of the mentality of, who plays Atari? I play Nintendo. And even on the Nintendo, it was growing with its own little library of classic games that you could play. So, there's Donkey Kong for Nintendo. There's Spy Hunter, which was also another arcade classic. So now you can play these old retro games on the Nintendo. So, at this point, again, out with the old, in with the new. But then they started bringing the retro stuff into it. So now we have to ask ourselves, does the Nintendo today qualify as a retro system? Because the Atari still exists. People still buy it. They you can't buy it off the brand new shelf, but people collect them and they still play them. You can still get the PlayStation 3, 4, I believe, came out with, or it's coming out with a anthology set where you can play all the classics. But Nintendo, they're just right now we're waiting for the Nintendo. It's going to be called the Classic Edition by At Games. So you can just it'll have like built-in games and stuff like that. So is that mean now we've finally reached that stage where Nintendo is retro? I'm going to say I don't think so. I still consider this a new system, even though it was made in the 80s. I don't consider Nintendo retro. I really think that Nintendo should be in its own little world. It needs its own name. It needs to be, there needs to be a, I guess, kind of like with what I thought about, with music. Once a band or songs are no longer on the charts, are they considered classics? No, they're not considered oldies either. There's their own little section. So we should probably come up with a kind of a midsection to say that the Nintendo probably fits in this later on category of I don't know. Perhaps we can come up with some ideas in the comments section and talk about it. But yeah, I mean, it's got its own classics. Castlevania, like I said, Super Mario Brothers. It's got its own classics. So where does it go from there? And that's what I'm thinking. It needs to have its own little category. And I really just don't think that the Nintendo should be considered retro. I could be wrong, and I'm sure a lot of people disagree, but I'd like to hear your comments.